You did it without thinking. You did not choose which hand to use. You did not weigh the options. One hand simply went, and the other waited. For about 9 out of every 10 people alive, that hand was the right one. And the reason it was reaches back 1.8 million years to a moment long before you, long before your language, long before your species even existed. We treat handedness as a small, almost invisible fact about ourselves. Which hand you write with? Which one holds the fork? A quirk, like eye color, that says nothing important. But hidden inside that tiny daily habit is one of the strangest and oldest signatures of being human. And once you understand where it comes from, you cannot quite see your own hand the same way again. Start with the obvious question. Is it just culture? For a long time, people assumed handedness was something you were taught. Schools forced left-handed children to write with their right. Tools, doors, and desks were all built for the majority. Maybe, the thinking went, right-handedness was just a habit passed down, a social pressure. Nothing deeper than that. The bones disagree. To see why, travel to Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, one of the most famous fossil sites on Earth. There, researchers recovered a piece of an upper jaw from an early member of our own genus, Homo, that lived around 1.8 million years ago. The specimen is called OH65, and when the anthropologist David Frayer examined the front teeth, he noticed something almost no one would think to look for. Tiny scratches. The scratches ran across the lip-facing surface of the front teeth, at a slant, diagonal, and the direction of that slant tells a story. Picture how these early humans ate. They did not have plates or knives at the table. They had a piece of tough meat or hide and a sharp stone flake. So they would clamp one end of the food between their front teeth, pull it tight with one hand, and slice off a bite with a stone tool held in the other. We call it the stuff and cut method, and every so often, that stone blade would slip and scrape across the front teeth as it cut. Here is the key. If you do that cutting with your right hand, the blade scratches your teeth at one specific angle. If you do it with your left, the angle is mirror reversed, and the scratches on OH65 lean the way a right-handed cutter would make them. 1.8 million years ago, a member of early Homo was holding food in their teeth and cutting it with their right hand, just like you would. And it is not a single fluke. When David Frayer and his colleagues studied the teeth of Neanderthals, including a large collection from a site called Krapina in Croatia, they found the same diagonal scratches leaning the same way in the overwhelming majority of individuals. Neanderthals, our cousins who vanished 40,000 years ago, were also overwhelmingly right-handed. The evidence does not stop at teeth. The archaeologist Nicholas Toth studied something even more clever: the stone tools themselves. When you strike flakes off a stone core to make a cutting edge, the way the flakes come off depends on which hand turns the core and which hand strikes. A right-handed toolmaker leaves behind a slightly different pattern of debris than a left-handed one. And when Toth analyzed thousands of stone flakes left by early humans, the pattern pointed the same way. Most of these ancient toolmakers were right-handed too. Then there is the most haunting evidence of all: the hands themselves on the walls of caves. Across Ice Age Europe, in caves like El Castillo and Gargas, ancient people pressed a hand against a rock and blew pigment over it, leaving a stencil, a ghostly outline of a real human hand from tens of thousands of years ago. And when you count them, a striking pattern appears. Most of the stenciled hands are left hands. Think about why. To blow pigment over your hand, you hold the spraying tube or pack the pigment with your dominant hand, and you press your other hand against the wall. So if most of the stencils are left hands, it means most of those people were spraying with their right. Across thousands of years and thousands of kilometers, the walls of the Ice Age are quietly raising their right hands. So this is not culture. This is not modern. This goes back before farming, before cave art, before our species, before language itself. So let's reconstruct that ancient moment, the one written into the tooth. It is 1.8 million years ago. A small, upright figure crouches with a scrap of tough meat. They lift it to their mouth and grip one end between their front teeth. Their left hand pulls the meat taut, and their right hand, holding a sharp sliver of stone, draws the blade across, slicing off a mouthful. The blade nicks a front tooth, leaving a scratch so small no one would ever notice it. That figure will die and be buried and turned to stone. And 1.8 million years later, a scientist will tilt that tooth toward the light, see the angle of that scratch, and know which hand they favored. That is how deep this goes. Here is the twist that changes what handedness even means. Because the truth is, this was never really about the hand at all. Your hands are controlled by your brain in a crossed-over way. The left side of your brain controls the right side of your body, and the right side of your brain controls the left. So when 9 out of 10 humans favor the right hand, what that is really telling you is that 9 out of 10 human brains are organized in a particular, lopsided way, with the left hemisphere taking the lead. And here is the part that should give you chills. That same left hemisphere, in most people, is also where language lives. The regions that let you find words, build sentences, and speak sit mostly on the left side of the brain, the same side that drives your dominant right hand. Handedness, in other words, is not a fact about your fingers. It is a visible shadow of something invisible. It is a clue, sitting right there on the end of your arm, that the human brain split itself into two specialized halves, one side leaning toward fine motor control and language, the other toward other tasks. The strong, shared right-handedness of our species may be one of the outward signs of the same deep reorganization of the brain that eventually gave us speech. When you reach for a cup with your right hand, you are watching the same lopsided brain that lets you say the word cup. And that raises a beautiful, unsolved mystery. If right-handedness is so dominant, so ancient, so baked into the wiring, then why are there any left-handers at all? Why didn't they simply vanish? One leading idea is almost poetic. In a world where almost everyone fights and moves in the same way, the rare person who does everything mirror-reversed has a surprise advantage in combat, in sport, in any contest where your opponent has spent their whole life facing right-handers. Being unexpected is its own kind of edge. Whether or not that is the full answer, the persistence of left-handedness suggests it was never a mistake to be corrected. It was a difference worth keeping. And one strange relative hints at how special our shared right-handedness really is. On the Indonesian island of Flores lived a tiny human species nicknamed the hobbits, Homo floresiensis. A recent study suggested they barely favored one hand over the other, roughly like a chimpanzee does. Strong, population-wide right-handedness, it seems, is not automatic for every kind of human. It is something that deepened along the particular branch that leads to you. So look at your own right hand again. Why do you write with it? Why does it reach first? Almost always, without you ever deciding. It is not because a teacher trained you, or because the world was built for it. Those things came late. The real answer is that you are the latest carrier of a preference so old it predates your species, etched into a tooth in an African gorge nearly 2 million years before you were born, repeated in the scratched teeth of Neanderthals, in the spiral of struck stone flakes, in the raised left palms on 1,000 cave walls. Your right hand is not a habit. It is an inheritance. Every signature you sign, every wave goodbye, every time your dominant hand moves before you can even think about it, you are performing a gesture that links you, directly and unbroken, to a small upright creature crouched in the dirt 1.8 million years ago, holding meat in its teeth and a blade in its right hand. Reach out and pick up something near you. Anything. The hand that answered was chosen for you almost 2 million years ago. And the fact that it was the right one is one of the oldest, quietest ways your body remembers being human.